Hello, friends. We are back for another episode of Ruddle Me This. I am, as always, your host, Taylor, the pun dance kid, Ruddle. Welcoming you back to part 2 of 3 of my discussion with my very good friend, Henry Hickman, a local stand-up comedian, about the television show Survivor. I believe in this episode we get into the middle years of Survivor, and Henry was telling me about some of the absolutely nutty what would you call it, stipulations that this television show set up for its contestants. I think we begin to learn how Survivor, as well as being quite an entertaining thing, is also a rather interesting reflection of society at the time. If I'm remembering correctly, this might serve as a little bit of a content warning for some of the listeners out there, but I think some of the things we discuss about the making of Survivor were very much products of their time and the attitudes of the times. So just bear that in mind. Some of the stuff I remember we were talking about that they did on Survivor hasn't particularly aged well with modern sensibilities, which is a good thing. But just something to be aware of when you listen to it. You might, your jaw might be on the floor for some of these wacky ideas that they had in the middle years of Survivor. So with that, let's get into the episode. Welcome back for part 2 of 3 to the show. Henry Hickman, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast, Henry.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. We don't need to waste any more time because you are very well prepared for this. So, where do we leave off? With the last one.
We left off talking about how Survivor was bad for a bit, and that's where I got into Survivor, funnily enough.
Yeah.
I'll talk about how I got into Survivor.
Yeah,
that
that's
could
a
be
good
a bit of
story.
an interesting tangent.
Yeah, what was your kind of impetus there?
Well, have you heard of the show Total Drama?
Oh, yeah, I know that.
It was like a cartoon that was a rip-off of Survivor, and I watched Total Drama Island, and I thought, this is funny, this is kind of cool. And I was watching TV in my parents' room, and an ad came on for Survivor South Pacific. And I was literally like the meme. Oh my God, they've made Total Drama into a real thing.
Excellent.
And I begged my parents to let me watch Survivor, even though it went on after my bedtime.
I've been in that situation myself before.
And they let me, and I bet now they wish they hadn't let me do that.
Is it not a passion that you share with your parents?
It's not a... You mentioned you have friends who are into Survivor. Please tell me who they are.
Yeah,
I've met about 2 people in New Zealand who give a shit about Survivor.
I can. I'll set up the connection. We'll throw a little Survivor party, and I'll pretend it's all spontaneous. And
I went to a Scared Scriptless show recently because they had a Survivor themed show.
Yeah,
and I got told to shut up by the host because I was giving them too much information about Survivor.
That's brilliant. So what is it that you love so much about Survivor? Like, was it an immediate connection, or did it take several episodes? What do you love about it?
When I first got into it, the way they edit the show is so captivating because they somehow take 72 hours of 18 people just living on an island and turn it into a story over the course of an entire season. 72 hours per episode. How do they condense that into 40 minutes? I will never understand.
Yeah.
Because they basically got a camera recording each person. So let's say you have 18 people, each of them with their own unique 72 hours that they go through. That's a number.
Yeah.
Let's put that into a number. So that's 1,296 hours of footage.
Yeah.
So 54 days of footage, and they condense that into a 40-minute story. And they do a bloody good job because essentially I just immediately became obsessed with one character, Ozzy, because he was this cool surfer dude who won lots of challenges and all of the women loved him. And I was like, yeah, that's just like me. That's me.
You really related to that character.
It's not me. Wish it were me.
Aspirational. We can call it aspirational.
Yeah. And I watched this entire season, and I'll spoil it because no one who has listened to this podcast and hasn't gotten into Survivor should actually watch South Pacific. It's regarded as one of the worst seasons of all time.
Oh, there you go.
But I watched this entire season of Ozzy being an underdog. He gets all the way to the final four. He is one win away from being in the final three and basically guaranteeing that he wins the entire season. And he fumbles. He fumbles the bag and he loses. And
Yeah.
something in my 12-year-old brain just went, but that's the good guy. He's
Yes.
meant to win.
Yeah.
And something about having these hopes of mine built up and crushed by Survivor of all things. I was like, no, surely I can understand this. Surely, maybe I watched it wrong,
Right, right.
and and here I am, still watching it, probably still watching it wrong, trying to figure out what are the editors trying to tell me from that 12 days of footage per episode. They're trying to tell a story. Nothing
Mhm.
is in the episode by accident.
Yeah.
And there's this thing called the winner's edit, where you
Hmm.
look out for things that sort of show you this guy might be the winner, this might be a contender. One of my favorite ones is if you ever see someone laying down during the daytime, they're probably not the winner because they don't show the winner sleeping or like being lazy.
Huh.
They never do that.
Interesting.
They it's such a weird thing.
Because that's one thing that is quite it's a little bit of that the history is written by the winners in that as the show's happening, they don't necessarily know what's going to happen and they probably don't have an idea for a storyline, right?
Yeah,
But then after they've filmed everything and the show's happened, I guess the editors have to create like an arc or something
yeah.
for what has happened, right?
They have to take the 39 days on the island, the thousands of hours of footage, and they have to turn it into 14 40-minute episodes that tell
Yeah.
a cohesive story about why someone won. Although sometimes they choose to tell the story of why someone lost instead, or
Yeah, yeah.
why why everyone
Is
else didn't win.
the idea that they never show the winners lying down or
Sleeping,
sleeping,
yeah,
is that an unofficial rule that the fans of Survivor have managed to kind of noodle out, or
yep,
is like I could just imagine there
yep.
was like this secret like producer's guide that got leaked or something, and it was like, we never show this, we never show
Oh,
that.
I
Like
wish. I'd love to see that.
that would be the holy
Um,
grail, wouldn't it?
Yeah. No, it's The Winner's Edit, and Jeff Probst has gone on his own podcast that I do listen to
Mhm.
and gone, guys, there is no Winner's Edit. You're crazy. And everyone's
Uh,
like, okay, but look at these 20 years of correlating events. Jeff's
yeah,
like, no, you're
yeah.
crazy. Like another one, they never show the winner failing to make fire. They might show them succeeding, but they never show them failing to make fire. And
Ah,
so if someone makes fire, it's often a good sign because in Survivor, fire represents your life. When your fire goes out,
yeah.
you're voted out. And so they don't want to
Yes.
see you don't want
That's
to see the winner
fascinating.
failing to create the thing that represents their life in the game.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yes,
There's
because
a lot
my
more subtle ones.
one
Like
of
if
my
someone
fr
is just not shown in an episode, they're probably not winning.
yeah, because one of my friends, she was telling me about the winner's edit, and I believe she eventually meant to explain what that was to me, but we never got around to it. And so when you said winner's edit, I was like, yes, that's a thing. I don't know what it means, but
Yeah.
I know it's relevant. And
Okay, so your friends are super into Survivor. Got it.
yeah, they are on
Fuck
the same
yes.
level, on the same level as you.
Let's
Um,
go.
so then what else after, was there anything else we could add to the winners edit, or should we continue going through the errors that we were kind of talking through?
I might shelve the winner's edit for now because it's actually one of those things I wish I didn't know about
Yeah,
because it almost ruins what's in the show. You
it's
watch it and you
very
see someone take a nap and you're like, well, they're out.
it's I know I've seen this phenomenon in other things before as well. It's a bit like the is that TV trope Chekhov's gun or something like that. Like they won't show you something
Yeah.
unless it's going to be relevant later.
Yeah.
Um, that has both ruined and made movies for me because noticing it and then yeah, it's an interesting one. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's keep going through the eras. What was after they kind of went through
Ooh.
the dark ages after
Yep.
WrestleMania, and then what happened
Yep.
next?
So we hit the themed ages where they decided to do a bunch of themes. And they've done themes before. They've done
Yeah.
men versus women. They've done fans versus favorites. They've done young versus old. And these are all sort of themes that make sense.
Mm.
They've done the heroes versus villains.
Hmm.
Um, but now they start going insane with it.
Yeah.
Season 27, Blood versus Water. So they bring back
Ah.
a bunch of returning players, and each returning player also brings a family member. And
Ah.
the family members compete against the returning players to see if, I don't know, to see if blood is thicker than water, to see if they'll betray their family members for $1 million.
Ah.
I don't quite get why they did that one because it just sort of ended up with people strategically voting off people who had a family member still in the game until there were just no family members, peers
It
left
kind
in
of
the
defeats
game.
the purpose. Yeah.
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 And then 28, they did Brain versus Brawn versus Beauty. That one actually makes sense. That's a good idea for a season, and it's
Yeah, I
also a
like that.
season I highly recommend.
Yeah, check it
Um,
out.
yep, Kagayan, season 28. Uh, season 29, they did Blood versus Water again. Sure.
Because it worked so well the first
Okay,
time.
it's a good season, but it wasn't a good season. It was a good season sort of in spite of the theme, not really because of it. The
Yeah.
theme brought a bit of drama at the start, and then
Yeah.
everyone sort of forgot about it near the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also did bring us the most obnoxious thing Jeff ever talks about, where someone voted off their mum, sort of. Like there was going to be 5 votes on this person's mum, and Sierra could either vote with her mum and make it a 5-2 vote, or vote
Yeah.
against her mum and make it a 6-1 vote.
Yeah.
And so she voted against her mum, and Jeff goes, "Oh my God, she voted her mum out. No, her mum was going to get voted out anyway."
They'll
And
do anything to stir up drama, won't they?
yeah, yeah. If an entire season goes past without Jeff mentioning that time Sierra voted out her mom, it's not a real season of Survivor.
So you can play bingo with
Yeah,
certain events on a Survivor season. Yeah, I
yeah.
can see that happening.
So season 30, they do Worlds Apart, which
Uh-huh.
is a weird name for a theme of white collar versus blue collar
Hmm.
occupations, but they also throw in no collar, which I believe is just a thing they made up. It's
Right.
meant to be the people who are like hippies and sort of rebel
Like not
against society.
participating in society. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So white collar versus blue collar versus no collar.
Uh-huh.
If you know about the winners edit, I won't say how, but that season has one of the most obvious winners edits of all time.
Okay.
Season 31, they did another theme. They did second chances where us, the viewers, got to vote for who would be on the season. That was really cool. That was
Oh,
fun
that's
to take
cool.
part in.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool.
We're still in the themed season. They really didn't slow down at all. We
No.
did, I think the theme season literally lasts right up until season 40, but I'll go through all of them anyway.
Yeah.
And if any of them make you go, what the fuck? I'll try and explain. I don't know if I can for some of them. There's one in mind that I know for a fact you're going to go, what are you on about?
Uh-huh.
Season 31 was Second Senses. Season 32, they did Brain versus Brawn versus Beauty again.
Uh-huh.
That one's also a pretty good season. Season 33, they did Millennials versus Gen X.
Yep.
And that actually has a fun contrast to season 3, where
Hmm.
season 3 was basically boomers versus Gen X.
Right. Yeah,
And
that's cool.
all of the Gen X were shown to be like these lazy, carefree people, and all the boomers were these really hardworking, like sticks in the mud. And then you get to
Yeah.
season 33 and they do millennials versus Gen X, and all of the millennials are shown as these lazy, sort of carefree people, go with the flow. And all of these boomers, all of these Gen X people are shown to be these hardworking
Yep.
people who complain about participation trophies and stuff. And I'm sure in
Uh-huh.
season 63, when they do millennials versus Zoomers or whatever,
Oh yeah,
it'll
I'm gonna be
be
hanging out for that
all
one.
of all of the millennials will be these super hardworking, and all of the Zoomers will be these carefree youngins. That's a commentary on society, though, which is the point of Survivor. I suppose that's the point, part of
Yeah,
why I love
well,
it.
I think the fact that they make seasons so quickly means that they can go for a kind of shotgun or throwing shit against the wall
Oh yeah,
approach.
yeah.
And
I mean,
you
we
have to
mentioned
admire them for that, I say. They might not all be bangers, but at least they're
yeah,
trying something new. So I have to
yeah,
pat them on the back for that.
yeah. I mean, we mentioned in part one the season divided by race. They
Yeah,
certainly have tried everything.
I don't know if I like
Don't
that
know if
so
you can
much,
applaud
but
them for that.
no, yeah, that's definitely that would be definitely a miss, I think. But
That
like
that season actually used to be my favorite back when I didn't understand what racism was.
right. Oh man.
I was just like, yo, because it had Ozzy on it from the first season I
Oh, you're
watched. I was
just
like,
stoked
yo,
to see
Ozzy is so
Ozzy.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was because that happened. That was a season that happened before I was into Survivor. And I was like,
Yeah.
what season's Ozzy on? He's on season Cook Islands. I was divided by race. Who gives a shit? I get to watch Ozzy be cool.
Do you know I remember seeing the commercials for Cook Islands? I remember the TV commercials for it, so I did not realize that was the race
Okay.
one. Wow.
How did they advertise that? They were like, oh, look at this diverse cast of characters.
Yeah.
Which
That
race is gonna win?
did they ever in that series, did they ever state like that it was so blatant as race, or were they like,
Yeah,
did they really?
yeah. Right at the start, they were
Wow.
like, "You are the Latino tribe. You are the African American tribe. You are the Asian tribe, and you are the Caucasian tribe."
Well, at least they used, I guess, the correct names rather than just like you
Yeah,
guys are the black
yeah.
tribe, you're the white tribe. You know, that's yeah.
That
Um,
season got torn to shreds by a bunch of parody, like SNL type
oh
stuff.
yeah, I
If
can
you, I don't know
imagine.
if Mad TV is still a thing nowadays, but
It's not, but
extremely,
yeah.
they have an extremely racist parody of Survivor Cook Islands.
Oh God.
It's
Yeah.
probably funny at the time. I can't watch it now.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good thing though. It means we've shown progress as a society
Yeah.
that we look at that and go, oh dear.
Oh dear.
That's yeah, that's one that we want to
So
move
yes,
on from.
Survivor would throw anything at the wall. Season
Yeah.
34, they wanted to do All Stars again, but they couldn't call it All Stars, so they just called it Game Changers and brought back just fucking anyone. That was a
Yeah, yeah.
terrible season. You might have heard of that season. That season made headlines around the world because a contestant outed another contestant as transgender on the season.
I feel like I do vaguely remember hearing something about
Yeah.
it, but I never watched it or anything. So these are actually fairly recent ones we're going through now.
Yep. Yep. We're talking about when was Game Changers? That would have been 2017.
Oh yeah, okay, so really recent, yeah.
Yep. And that was a big thing at the time. The dude lost his job and then
How
tried
did
to
that
profit
happen?
off of.
That was it during the voting or something?
Yep.
They
It was at tribal council and this dude, Jeff Varner, he said, look, I know I'm going to be voted out, but as a Hail Mary, you need to know that Zeke is hiding stuff from you. He's transgender. And everyone
right.
was like, what the fuck does that have to do with Survivor?
Yeah,
Get
interesting. So
out.
that was his move.
He
Yeah,
he thought that it
Hail
would
Mary
show.
would be the correct like what did he expect to happen, right?
He would have been fine. Not he would have still been voted off, but he would have kept his job and not been, a complete
Yeah.
hated online if he just
If
used
he
some
just
critical thinking skills for a second.
yeah, no kidding, huh? That must be wild to go back to like the real world after being on Survivor. Like
Yeah,
you're just in
lots
your
of
office
people.
job, like you're on a
Yeah,
beach like last week. Yeah.
yeah, lots of people talk about that. They
Well,
talk
he
about
didn't, but
how
he didn't go back to yeah, he was
he
he was
didn't go
back.
back to his job.
No, he was on his couch for the foreseeable future after that. But you know what I
Oh,
mean?
fuck him. Yeah, fuck him though. People talk about like they the people lose a lot of weight on Survivor. The record is someone lost about 80 pounds, I think.
Man, maybe I should go on
Um,
Survivor then. That sounds
oh,
like
same. I genuinely sometimes I'm like, if I went on Survivor, I might not win, but I'll probably lose that last 5 kilos I've been
and that
trying to
is a
shift.
victory in itself, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Like if you smash out your body goals, but you get voted off in round one, then
But the problem is most people come back to society are like scared of not having food because they went, only having 1 cup of rice per day.
yeah.
Their metabolism has become completely fucked from being on the show. And
Yeah,
so they
that's
actually end up gaining all of the weight back and
ah,
more most of the time.
yeah. I can imagine. Do you remember that other reality show called The Biggest Loser?
Yeah, oh God, that show is so fucked. I think that
Yeah.
show's a bit more fucked up than Survivor, to be honest.
Yeah, I would say so. Like, was that what was that, the 90s, late 90s kind of
It's
thing?
it's not I mean it's still a thing because fun fact, the first winner of Survivor was on The Biggest Loser,
Huh.
Richard Hatch. He was on season 17, which when was season 17 of The Biggest Loser? That was in 2016.
Did they make 17 seasons of that show too?
They made 18 seasons of it and appear to have stopped now.
Wow, reality shows really are cheap to make, aren't they? Well, they're really easy to
Yeah,
make, I guess.
yeah.
Um, I
Biggest
forgot
Loser's
why I brought
fucked
that
up
up.
though.
The
Uh, because people gain more weight than they lose after eating on
Yeah,
Survivor.
I would almost guarantee that happened to the people on that show, right?
Yep.
Because they're just like
Yeah.
working out for 8 hours every day, and then you go back to your normal life, and yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
People
after
complain that
this,
like
oh, go
their
ahead, sorry.
beds are too soft. They can't sleep on their beds because they're used to sleeping on bamboo for the entire month.
This is Survivor people.
This is Survivor, not Biggest Loser.
Wow,
They get super paranoid. They worry that everyone's lying to them all the time because they spent the entire time living in an environment where everyone was lying to them all the time.
wow.
People develop like massive trust issues. One dude got a parasite that completely put him in the hospital for 2 months after being on Survivor.
Jeez.
Some other dudes, some of the challenges. One challenge back in season 10 went on for 12 hours. They had to stand on a pole,
Yeah.
and the producers were like, "This challenge will go at most maybe 4 hours." But the people stood on the pole for so long that they got nerve damage in their feet because they just
Oh
had like
man.
this metal disc digging into their feet the entire time.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. I
Another
always wondered
person,
I always
no,
wondered that
you
kind
can,
of Oh, go ahead, sorry.
sorry, one more. Someone they had a challenge where they held weight over their shoulders, sort of like you were doing a squat at the gym. I don't know if you
Yeah,
do
yeah,
those
yeah.
at the gym.
Yeah.
Um, and someone dislocated a vertebrae, I want to say, or something like
Yeah.
that happened because they were
Yeah.
holding the weight wrong and it got like 300 pounds just sitting on their back.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Those it was like I was watching early Fear Factor because I just wanted to see the difference between kind of like what I'm interested with Survivor, see the difference between the early days and the sort of nowadays. And when you when you're talking about Jeff Probst just hanging out with them in the early Survivor, it was a bit like that. Like Joe Rogan is just kind of standing with the contestants and he's like asking them like, "Hey, so what was that like?" And it was just like he was just like another person on the
Yeah.
thing. But the first challenge they did was like, um, they were dressed as cowboys and they would. It sounds ridiculous to say it, but they were dragged behind horses, like they just had to hang
What
on to
the
like a rope,
fuck?
and like I thought like, oh, surely like they'll kind of like, maybe the it'll be special. Like they will have sorted the mud out so that it's not going to really mess them up or anything. And like,
Yeah.
maybe it's like maybe this is an attraction people do at a theme park or something like because they were in like an old shanty town kind of thing. And
Yeah.
like the people were ending it up with like cracked sternums and like have like their
Ah,
forearms are all cut up from the ground. And I was just
God
like,
damn.
wow, that's like yeah, the things people put their body through for money, eh?
Yeah. One of my favorite, this is completely unrelated to anything except sternums. One of my favorite Jackie Chan facts is that he once dislocated his sternum. How do you do that?
I wonder
How do
what
you dislocate your sternum?
I wonder what film that was from. Because
I
he's
don't
sort of
know.
historically broken every single bone in his body, but
Yeah.
I think you would dislocate your sternum by all the ribs detaching from it. Because
Yeah.
if you've ever seen those chiropractor videos, people their ribs are like they call it ribs being out, which I think just
Yep.
means they're not like not lining up properly or something. So
Yep.
like maybe that's what it was. Maybe they're just all all detached.
Yeah. It was in filming Armor of God 2, Operation Condor.
So it'll be the tree fall. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it was the tree fall.
Yeah, because that was where he did a lot more than just his sternum in that fall, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, he
yes.
did. He did everything.
He's
But no,
actually
people get messed up on Survivor.
he's Jackie Chan's had a bit of controversy. Like, have you seen that scene
Has
that
he?
kind of went viral of him and his
Uh,
daughter watching a bunch of his movies, like the Armor of God tree jump
yeah.
was in it, and then uh, everyone was like, "Oh, that's a beautiful scene" because his daughter's crying and they're watching it, and then it turns out that was just a scene from a movie, and his relationship with his actual kids is horrible, like nowhere near
Ah,
like that. So
whoops.
anyway, tangents upon tangents. So this is Ruddle Me This tangents. So where were we? We're
We
talking
were
about
people
Survivor.
get fucked up on Survivor.
Yeah, they certainly do.
People come back and they can't return to their normal lives.
It's
They,
it's like being in prison, right? You hear about how that
yeah,
changes your mental state.
yeah. Well, I'm not going to say that they're exactly analogous, but like you're always looking over your shoulder,
Yeah, yeah, that's what
making
I mean.
sure
Is
that,
like, yeah, not literally like you're being
yeah,
in prison, like, but just the fact that it changes you.
yeah,
Or being a soldier, you could argue as well. Coming
yeah, yeah.
back to a civilian life, for lack of a better word. Um,
No, it's wild. But what season did I get up to? Season 34, Game Changers,
yep.
which had the controversy of getting outed as
Yeah,
transgender.
yeah.
Survivor's shockingly, I don't want to call it progressive, but the
Right.
first winner of Survivor was a gay man.
Huh.
The second winner was a woman. The fourth winner was an African American woman.
Yeah.
It's pretty much it takes all sorts. Like anyone can win Survivor.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding. Because the fact that they you have those alliances, because you said something in the first part of the podcast about like people who know how to play Survivor versus people who don't know how to play Survivor.
Yep.
Evidently there is some skill involved. It's not just winning the physical challenges. Like,
Yeah.
have there been any winners who were not that athletic, let's say, not that physically capable, but just
Yeah,
through scheming and everything, they've
yeah.
managed to come out on top.
I would say most of them, to be honest. Like Richard Hatch, the first winner, beat someone who won 4 immunity challenges.
Yeah,
Um, Tina, the second winner, beat someone who won 5 immunity challenges in a row. Um, they say that Survivor is split into 3 games: physical, social, and strategy.
yeah,
But most would argue that social is king because of how the
yeah,
jury vote works. The jury wants to vote for someone who they like.
yeah,
It's why Russell, even though he was a massive character, has never won Survivor because everyone hated him.
yeah,
But there have
that,
been physical people who have won Survivor, but
yeah,
we sort of get into later seasons with that. I don't want to do too many spoilers for all of the budding
sure,
viewers
yeah.
who are going to turn into massive Survivor fanatics after
Yeah,
this.
totally. We might have kicked off a new a new sort of a
Oh, I
Survivor
hope so.
fandom.
We'll
Um,
get
yeah, so
we're
what
to season
came,
35. I want to hear your reaction to this.
please, yeah.
The season was called Heroes versus Healers versus Hustlers.
Okay, so off the bat, I love it. Anything with Hustler in it is like, yep, I'm there for it. So
Triple
heroes versus
H, am I right?
yeah, it's time to play the game.
Yeah.
So heroes versus healers versus hustlers. So
Yep.
my guessing there is hero the like quote unquote good good guy kind of archetype that they've used before, or is it heroes in the sense of like like war heroes and stuff like that?
It's occupation, and so it was a weird group though. There was a Marine vet,
Yeah,
a, a lifeguard, um,
like fire people and
and
stuff like that.
yeah, an
Yeah, yeah.
Olympic swimmer was a hero. I think because
Okay,
it's a
yeah.
sports hero, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah,
And
why
my
not?
favorite one, an actuary. So
A
like
what?
an accountant was on the heroes tribe,
Why
but
you
they
have to
claim that that's because being a mom makes you a hero.
Yeah, yeah.
Was
Well,
sort of the claim there.
yeah, why not? And then so healers, I'm guessing, was that medical professionals?
Yeah, pretty much.
So then hustlers
And
is an
also,
interesting one.
yeah,
Is that like Vegas card counters and like the dude playing dice in the alleyway and that kind of thing?
you're not too far. It was
Uh,
like a bellhop, a
huh.
a YouTuber's assistant,
Oh,
um,
okay.
sort of people that have to hustle, which is everyone. Everyone has to hustle.
Yeah.
That's life, am I right? It was
Yeah.
such a weird season.
I do like that name though. That's probably my favorite name so far.
What do you think of Ghost Island,
I love
season
it. Do you know
36?
about the ghost episodes they do on this podcast?
I don't.
Yeah, so every little quick self plug there. Every few episodes, I do an episode called Phantom Files, where I have people from around New Zealand that have had like potentially paranormal experiences. They just record like a short, kind of 5 to 8 minute clip, and then send it to me, and I'll do like a little bit of an intro in between and play some spooky ambience, and it's all kind of like lo-fi sort of M.R. James horror, if you get that reference.
Yeah,
So
sounds
yeah,
cool.
Ghost
Check it
Ghost
out.
Island is I'm up there. What was the deal with that season?
It's really weird. So I feel like I need to explain the hidden immunity idol at some point.
Yeah, go for it.
With the hidden immunity idol, if you find that it's hidden in the jungle somewhere, sometimes they give you clues as to where it might be, but more often than not, you just need to go and look for it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
very hard to find. If you have that, you can play it after the votes have been cast, but before they've been read, and
yeah.
any votes that have been cast for you do not count.
Gotcha.
And so you might play it and everyone's voted for you, or you might play it and no one's voted for you.
Yeah,
And so with Ghost Island, they brought back artifacts from survivors past
I
to
love
give
it.
people the chance to try and redeem them.
That's cool.
And
I
so
like
there
that.
were a bunch of idols that got misplayed. There were like some immunity necklaces that people had given up and then they got voted out.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
was there was a fake idol, which was a stick with a face carved into it, that back in season 16 someone legitimately thought was a real idol. With one of the most iconic lines. That's not the idol. That's a fucking stick. And this dumb surfer just goes, it's got a face on it though.
So was that made by another
That was made
cast
by
member?
Ozzy.
So he bamboozled this other
Yeah.
player with a that's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
So what did that artifact do in the Ghost Island season?
It matured, as they put it, into a real hidden immunity idol. They made it sound like the stick had been sitting in Fiji, growing power over time to become an immunity idol,
I like
even
that.
though season 16 was in Micronesia and not in Fiji. So I don't know how the stick got there.
Well,
You're gonna,
someone threw it in the water, I guess. I don't know, but yeah, that's
in fact, no, no one thought it because when someone plays a fake idol, Jeff goes, "This is not a hidden immunity idol," and then he throws it into the fire. So someone
uh,
had to dig it out of the fire, hold
yeah.
on to it for, I'm gonna do the math real quick, hold on to it for a decade, and then put it. I think it's more likely they just made a new stick.
That's probably
I
fairly
I don't
likely.
know if I believe the storytelling going on in Ghost Island.
I do like I'm a big fan of when I don't know what exactly the phenomenon is called, but the idea of retroactively working with things from the past to make them kind of come full circle. So I quite
Yeah.
like that actually. What other artifacts were there any other interesting ones from that season?
So when someone wins immunity, they normally get a necklace, and it's like a big necklace.
Yeah.
It like it's large, and so that in one season, someone gave up the immunity necklace and then got voted out the exact same night. Because
Oh,
if you win immunity, you can give it to someone else.
yeah, yeah.
And he got so mind fucked, people were like, "Oh, if you give it up, it will redeem you for all the evil things you did, even though you didn't
Right,
actually do anything evil." I think the
right.
evil thing that he did was promised two different people he would take them on reward, and he was only allowed to bring one person.
Man, what a fiend.
Yeah, I know, right? And so they were like, it'll redeem you." And he got so mindfucked that he gave them the necklace and then got voted out unanimously. And
So
so that was on. Yep, you're up.
the idea of we were just talking about people's mental state and stuff like that. Like I guess when you're watching it, you think like, man, I would never fall for that. That's so dumb. But I
Yeah,
guess when you've only
yeah,
been eating a cup of rice every day and you've been in like the heat of like a tropical island and like you say, that
yeah,
everyone's lying constantly, like I guess you're not at 100% like capacity with your
yeah,
mental thinking and stuff. So stuff like that could work on you.
yeah. Well, one of the things that gets me, like, if you didn't see, I don't know how close you are with your family, but if you didn't see your family for like 3 weeks, how would you react when you saw them again? You'd probably go sup.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know? Yeah. But with on Survivor, when they do the family visits, you've got people like sobbing on the floor because of how much they've missed their family.
Right,
You've got
right.
people like proposing to their girlfriend on the island because being on Survivor made them realize how much they really
Ah,
love them and stuff like that. Meanwhile,
interesting.
if I did 3 weeks away from my family in normal conditions, I'd be like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" But I
Yeah,
suppose if I did it in Survivor conditions, I'd probably get completely mentally fucked up.
because it's like a one friendly face that you know is
Yeah,
not trying to mess with you. Yeah, I could understand that.
yeah,
I could
exactly.
understand that. They only get that once a season, I guess.
Yeah. And sometimes none a season, which is pretty fucked.
Yeah. Oh, very interesting.
So that's what happened on Ghost Island. Season
Yeah.
37, which is another season 37 is probably the best modern season if you believe you can keep up with all of the changes that have happened over the course of the
Right.
show.
Right. Right.
So season 37, probably in my top three seasons, David versus Goliath.
I heard of that. I saw the
Yeah.
promo for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that one had Mike White on it. He was a Goliath.
Uh-huh. So
And that
what
had
was the criteria for being a David or a Goliath?
it wasn't quite occupation. It was almost just sort of how your life has gone, your sort of
Oh man.
stature in life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Okay.
Mike White's a celebrity. There was a policeman on the Goliath tribe who was like a bodybuilding dude. Johnny Nitro was on the Goliath tribe
Was he
because he's a pro
really?
wrestler.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then on the David tribe, you've got like a robotics professor, which is pretty cool in my opinion. But
Yeah.
apparently he looks super nerdy, so they put him on the David tribe.
Ah, okay.
On the David
Interesting.
tribe, you've got a public defender
Yeah.
who, he sticks up for the little man.
Fights the good
You've
fight.
got
Yeah.
you've got this one. Oh, actually, he doesn't quite do. He became a senator in Kentucky for the Republicans, and
I think
it's
he's a
actually had a
David.
massive heel turn.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
kidding, right?
um, but we don't talk about that.
No.
Just if you watch the season, just ignore that fact. Just enjoy it
Okay.
for what it is, and ignore
Just
the fact that that one person is actually a massive piece of shit,
oh yeah.
or
Oh
try to.
yeah. What
He
happens
like
in
passed a
Survivor
bill
stays in
banning
Survivor, I guess.
he passed a bill banning gender affirming care in Kentucky,
Yeah,
which
right.
is
Yeah.
bad, is going to be my stance on that.
Yeah, yeah, for
Not to
sure.
get too political, but I like it when trans people are treated with respect.
Yeah, that's
And
always a plus there.
yeah,
Um that is quite interesting that it's come up. Like does any of that come up like let me try and word it like were the signs there when they saw him on Survivor?
No, because one of his closest allies was a lesbian Latina person,
Yeah, yeah,
and she was like, I had no idea about,
yeah.
like, I knew that he was Republican, but we bonded so well on the island, and it
Oh,
really seemed like I was getting through to him and making him reevaluate his biases and whatnot.
yeah, yeah.
And then after the season, he just goes back to being a massive
Oh,
wanker.
I
Hate to
guess,
see it.
I guess, well, yeah, there's that whole idea of like, when someone's like with the boys, they're kind of more,
Yeah,
peer pressured or whatever is maybe the wrong word, but um, oh, that's really interesting. And
yeah.
how old is this guy?
Oh, I'm not entirely sure. I'd say
Just a
is he
ballpark
upper
figures. Like, is
30s?
he, white-haired Republican old fella,
No,
or
no,
is?
he'd be about 30-ish, I think.
Wow, that's really surprising.
Yeah, yeah, he's 33 now, and so when he was on Survivor, he would have been about 28, I think.
Wow, what a heel turn then.
Well, you've got the whole. If we want to get into America, so much of your identity just comes down to were you born in a red or blue state? It's wild.
Yeah, I suppose it would
Maybe,
do. Does that kind of thing ever come up where people refuse to form an alliance because of political differences, or is it like
yeah,
fairly that does happen?
it happened back in season 6. So this is in 2003. This guy demanded that everyone vote out a gay person because he was gay.
Oh,
Um, what's even more fucked up is that they went along with it, because it was
Jesus.
2003.
Fucking
But also,
hell.
it does spring beautiful friendships from different walks of life. Richard
Yeah,
Hatch, the first gay winner and the first winner, had a lovely friendship with Rudy, who was a 70-year-old Navy SEAL. And Rudy actually said, meeting Richard made me realize that gay people are just people.
yeah,
He
yeah.
put it in sort of a bit of a
About as tender as he
70-year-old
could, kind of
way.
thing. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, you can cut this out if it's not right to say. I'm just quoting Rudy here.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Rudy said, he's queer, but he's all right."
Well, I think that's fine to
That's
say. Like, that's queer has been
yeah,
reclaimed by the LGBT plus
heck yeah.
community, but
But it wasn't back in 2000.
that's very
Oh
true.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, there's a lot worse of words he could have used.
there
So
are.
for a 70-year-old Marine,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's I would say
It's
that's fairly progressive.
it's so wild watching specifically season 11 and hearing people say the R slur just super casually, like you used to
Oh
back in the
yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah,
You go,
yeah,
oh,
for
he's
sure.
acting so, like yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and you
I
watch it and you go,
Yeah, I watched something recently that had that in it where you go, oh, the
oh,
times have
yeah,
changed since then a little bit, haven't they?
yeah. My friend was watching Friends in the lounge, and I was like, "Is that allowed now down there? That's not quite right."
Yeah, that's
Is it?
like it almost people didn't even think about it back in those days, I
Yeah.
think. Oh shit, we got a minute left.
Oh,
Have we
oh
got enough
God
content
damn it!
for a part three, or what do you reckon?
I've only hit season 37 out of 44.
All right,
God
folks,
damn it!
looks
Oh,
like we're gonna do a part three. So
oh, whoops.
thanks again for joining me, Henry. If you got time, we'll do a
Hey,
part three.
thanks for having me. Yep, I'll be around. Perfect. Thank you.
And we are back again. So that was part two out of three. The final part will be coming in 2 or 3 weeks, depending on how the upload schedule goes. If you're joining us from either Reddit or the Nerd Night talk that Henry gave, welcome along. I hope you enjoyed that first listen. Give me a subscribe and keep your eye out, for the next part. And while you're at it, why not check out some of the older episodes too? If you would like to see more Henry Hickman in your life, you can find his performer page on Facebook. Just search for Henry Hickman Comedian. He also hosts a few of the quiz nights that we run under Can Do Comedy. So if you've enjoyed listening to him talk about Survivor, why not listen to him read out some questions in a pub? As always, I am on all the social media networks except for Twitter at Taylor Ruddle Comedy. If you haven't given me a little 5-star review or whatever amount of stars you feel is fair for this free podcast that I put out, I'd love a 5-star, but you know what? I'll take a 4. And I don't have too much pride to turn down any level of stars, frankly. So any amount of stars you feel comfortable parting with, I would be more than happy to receive them. In terms of gigs, all we've got on at the moment, we are actually entering a relatively quiet and stable phase of running shows with Can Do Comedy. Every Tuesday at 7:30pm at Bridie's Bar and Tavern, we have the G-Quiz Quiz Night. A new time of 6:30 for the Wednesday night quiz at Moi Moi. These quizzes are both free to play. And then, as always, every Thursday, except for the last Thursday of the month, we are at the Laugh Cellar. We've had a few changes coming up to that. It's now going slightly longer, and they aren't doing table service, which should make for a better show, as well as a couple of more comedians on the lineup for you to enjoy. Still a Koha entry, but I think moving into 2024, we are going to look at charging $10 or $15 per ticket for that one, just to make it a little bit easier for me to give the comics a fair wage for their mahi. I've got a couple of private gigs coming up this weekend. Both of them are Christmassy sort of functions, but there's no real benefit to me telling you about that except to flex, and if my parents are listening, to remind them that I am indeed keeping busy. We'll wrap it up there. Hope you enjoyed that episode, and I hope you'll stick around and come back for part 3, the final part of the Survivor interview. But until then, thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you next time. Ruddler out.